Now, I don't know if you've seen Lilo and Stitch, but by far, it's one of my favorite kids' movies, yet movie of all time. And not because it was a cartoon, it was funny, because it was. It was probably because of the soundtrack. And not many movies you like solely because of the soundtrack, but with this, it was golden. And the only reason was because of the one and only Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll. Now, when I watched this movie for the first time, it was also the first time I heard any of Elvis Presley's music, and right away I was hooked. Something about it, just the relaxing, good beats, the nice voice, it hooked me right away. And Elvis Presley, he did a lot for all of pop culture, um, and for rock and roll back in the day, and this is a tribute to him. And not only did he love rock and roll, loved his family, loved his wife, but he also loved peanut butter and banana sandwiches. And starting off with Elvis Presley, he was born on January 8th, 1935, and which is further back than I was expecting. And Elvis, he was one of the most famous and classy people to ever live. Most people don't realize how good of a person he actually was, not just let alone his music side. And but when he was back in his childhood, he was actually a very heavy churchgoer. He was a big family man, and he grew up loving his mother. Big connection with her from birth to death, and because of that, he was very humble and had very humble beginnings, and he came from a good beginning. And his music talent actually started very early. And he was given a guitar at age 11, and instantly started clicking with it. It was just his thing. It was rock and roll right from the start. And actually, in high school, he won a talent show, and that was his first accomplishment probably for his music career. And that's what probably got him rolling was when he won his high school talent show with his first guitar with an original song. And once he got a little older, his music career started to take off whenever his first hit, Heartbreak Hotel, came out, and it just rocked the nation. And with that such a popular single, he outbroke all of pop culture. He got record deals with RCA Records, and his charming personality already got him movie deals with Paramount Pictures. And I don't know about you, but that's a pretty successful start right there. It's a pretty good start out for a famous rock and roll career. And but Elvis, he wasn't just a pretty face with a guitar. He also actually started out in the military, and he spent 1.5 years in Germany from the draft in World War II. And after 1.5 years, his mother actually died, and he was able to leave and go visit her. But then he went back for about half a year or so, and he was very down. That's also where he met his wife Priscilla, which upped his spirits and helped him through the war. And then he started his music career, which was taken off, where he actually won 4 Grammys, and all of these were actually for his gospel singings and his songs that he did for those. He actually didn't win a single Grammy for any of his rock and roll songs because the Grammys didn't start out until about 1965 or so. And but his top hits were Jailhouse Rock, Suspicious Minds, and Burning Low. Everyone knows right off the bat. And you can just listen to his deep voice in your head, and you just know those are probably some of the best songs back in the day. And for well as his movie career, he actually starred in over 35 movies, which is outlandish to think about. It's actually ridiculous because when you think about a singer, you don't think about them being a movie star as well. And when the ones that are, you don't expect them to be in 35 movies. But he was actually a very good actor, and everyone loved him at the time. And he rocked the nation in many different ways, military and the music and the movies. And but Elvis Presley, he was one of the most humble and generous people ever. He had a bigger impact on culture on the pop culture in the community than people realized with just his music. But he wasn't just the king of rock and roll, but he also gave away tons of cars. He would buy cars for people. He would just see people looking at cars and at the dealership and just be like, "Hey, you like that car?" And be like, "Yeah." And he would just buy that car for them right there. He would just out tons of people, and he would. There was a time when he just bought like 14 brand new sports cars at the time, and he just gave them all away just because he wanted to be generous, probably because of his Christian background. But he wanted to keep all this on the down low because he liked to be humble with his charity work. But his music impact was even bigger. Yes, he was the king of rock and roll. He did strike the nation in that because he was able to hit all of the audiences of the time. He wasn't just like a teenage music maker like nowadays with like boy bands, but he also hit like the older generations, middle generations. But yes, every concert if you've ever been to one, was definitely rocking with a lot of like teenagers, especially teenage girls. He got everybody with them. He's like the Beatles of America. And there's actually a story back at most of his concerts when he would be done, people would just be tearing down the building. They couldn't get enough of him. And they'd be yelling for encores, actually tearing down the buildings left and right, just yelling for Elvis to come back on stage. And where like the people that ran the place actually had to come out and just be like, guys, Elvis has left the building. And that was the only way to get them to stop. Was just that they would just be tearing down the building, cheering, chanting and everything, cheering, even way after he already left. That's how big of an impact he had. And that's how much his fans loved him. But come at the age of 42, his drug abuse kind of finally caught up to him. He was not as happy as he may have seemed on stage or on the moving picture screen, but the drugs did catch up to him, and at the age of 42, he did die of drug abuse, prescription drug abuse, and that was also the reason that he divorced his ex-wife, Priscilla, sadly. But we did lose a great man that day, and this is a tribute to him, and and he did make a big impact as the king of rock and roll, the truly king, and he sparked it for all of the nation. And yes, he was very, very generous, a big movie star, and the king of rock and roll. And he truly is a man that you just can't help falling in love with.